Hi, this is George Sandman. I'm the founder and CEO of Growth Drive. Growth Drive is the #1 best-selling business advising platform, and this is our podcast, The Business Advisor Hot Seat. Now, in the hot seat, you're going to hear from industry leaders, thought leaders, your colleagues who are going to share tips, techniques, war stories about building a thriving advisory business based on delivering client wins. We're going to get into it. We'll get into it about the Growth Drive methodology, the Clarity software, what we see out in the world, so much more than just the system. And I'm also the author of The Growth Driving Advisor, which is based on over a decade of being an advisor to advisor, working with you and your colleagues, helping them build their practices, helping them through client engagements. And it's really proven strategies for leading businesses from stuck to best in class. Check it out. So strap in. We're going to light this up. Here we go. Our guest this week in the hot seat is Brandon Snyder, and Brandon is in charge of strategic partnerships for 90.io. Many of you have heard of it. If you haven't, listen up because it is a very, very powerful partner of ours. And Brandon's a great guy, gifted, talented, and most importantly, deeply committed to your success. So listen in, strap in, here we go. This week's episode is brought to you by Be Ready Advisors. Enhance your business advisory services with specialized exit solutions. Listen, these guys will team up with you, increase your bench depth when you need specialized exit planning solutions for your clients. It's led by industry veterans Anna Halliburta, John Carter, and Kelly Malagilla Carter, sponsors of the 2024 Growth Drive Summit. Be Ready Advisors. Check them out at BeReadyAdvisors.com. This week's episode is brought to you by Growth Drive and the C3D certification. If you're looking to expand your reach and relevance with business owning clients, whether you're a business advisor or wealth advisor, this is a certification for you. And after completing it, you will understand how to make profits and transferable value M&A price actionable, how to maximize results for your clients. So get the details at growthdrive.com/C3D, scan the QR code, register. Listen, this is the path to building a thriving advisory business based on delivering client wins. Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. And this week, I am really pumped to be chatting here on the hot seat with Brandon Snyder. Brandon is with 90.io, the premier implementation. If you're a strategic doer and more, then 90 is the tool for you. So, Brandon, welcome. You're going to do a better job of introducing yourself than I am. Tell people a little bit about who you are and what you do and what 90 does.
Yeah, George, and hey, thank you for having me on the show. I found myself, I think I've listened to 3 or 4 of your episodes leading up to this, and I'm like, man, there's so much I didn't know about just the advisory work that all the doers at Growth Drive do. So I'm super excited to be here and grateful.
Thank you.
So, my story is I'd say I've been a entrepreneur for most of my career. I've had a few little startups that didn't go anywhere, but they were exciting and I learned a lot. And ultimately they led me to a little business operating system called EOS. As I'm sure most of this audience who's listening know what that is, but if you don't, it's called the Entrepreneur Operating System. EOS changed my perspective on how businesses should run. I used to, one of my first businesses that I ran solo was this lead gen and appointment setting firm called Revenue Traction Group. And we did lead gen and appointment setting for executive coaches, namely EOS implementers. And that's what led me ultimately to this organization called 90, because we chose to self-implement. And I promise this story will come back to like who I am and why am I 90. So this thing called EOS is a framework that I chose to run my small little company on. I chose to self-implement and it was a disaster. Like I had no idea how to, I've read Traction. I want to run L10 meetings, but I had no idea how to do it on my own until I came across this software called 90. And 90 totally helped me get the concept of a business operating system. It took it from an idea and words in a book and made it something actual and tangible that I, as the entrepreneur and proprietor of the company, could really sink my teeth and get my hands on and help me manage my business to success. So ultimately, wound that down. I'm friends with Mark Abbott, who's our founder, scooped me up to work in partnerships just because I'm so well connected into the advisor and the coach ecosystem. And now I work in a little division of 90 called partnerships. So frankly, we work with business coaches, we work with advisors in all different sizes, shapes, industries. I shooting straight with you. I get them to know, love, and trust myself and 90 as a product to the point where they refer it to their clients to do the work that they do. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome, man. Excellent. And yeah, you do I'm not blowing sunshine, but you do a great job of it. So you and I have had so many really good conversations over, I think it's 2 years. I tell the story often. About 2 years ago, we had a little fiasco on our side at exactly the same time as you had a fiasco on our side. You guys lost EOS for a brief period there, but well, we can talk about that if you want. And we lost the software that we were using to run my business. And so I wrote Mark a note, and I, hey Mark, it seems to me that we're a methodology that's lost its software, and you're a software company that's lost its methodology. Maybe we should chat. And I think that's actually when you and I've never spoken with Mark. I say that, I've never spoken with Mark, but I think that's when you and I had our first conversation. I actually ended up having conversations with maybe 3 of your senior leaders, and we've been flirting for a while, and now we're fully engaged, and I'm super excited.
Yeah, let's go. That was an interesting time. I mean, we're a fully transparent organization. Let's go to the point of the EOS situation. Let's call it that. So we are, frankly, when we went to market as a software, we are in what we call the business operating system space. It doesn't matter if you're talking EOS. There's lots of operating systems out there, Rockefeller Habits, eMyth, EOS, Pinnacle, Scaling Up, frankly, Growth Drive. Like, these are just frameworks, right? These are just ways in which entrepreneurs go from point A to point Z with a reliable, repeatable methodology to get to an outcome. So think about 90 now. Like, when the EOS situation happened, we were software for EOS, and that put us in a tough spot. EOS is still a great partner. We love them. They do great work for the world. But as a software, when we think about scale, when we think about our compelling, audacious goal to impact 10 million people in the companies that our software exists, we have to start thinking about going beyond that. So the vision for 90 now has really been, how do we become the iTunes of business operating systems? Frankly, we don't care which operating system an entrepreneur runs. We just believe they should be on a system. And frankly, they should be working with a business coach or an advisor such as yourself. Where we're at now in our journey is we are super excited to get into the exit planning space. I mean, I'm part of Indy's a national Vistage sponsor. I'm in a Vistage TA group. I've been to 3 or 4 Vistage executive summits throughout the United States this year. And I listened to an economic talk where they talk about, look, and this is all stuff, George, and I'm sure a lot of your advisors know this, but like, man, over the next, second half of this decade, there's going to be tons of growth. Like, the economic engine is going to be humming, lots of wealth to be made. But as you start to get into 2030 to 2036, like, things start to get a little bit rough.
It gets scary
because there's going to be a huge aging baby boomer population and lots of transfer of wealth that has to go on. So I think the exit planning space is a phenomenal place to be in right now if I'm an advisor. And our software will play a big part in that because, like you said earlier, George, like, you got to do the work to prepare the business for an exit, improve your value. And it's hard work. Frankly, I'm going to ask you, George, what is the statistic of businesses that want to exit that will actually go to exit? What is that stat?
Well, so if you're really being hard-nosed about it, 19 out of 20 businesses cannot successfully sell as they're run today. Now, there's a lot of nuance behind that, but 19 out of 20, so more than 4 out of 5, you can't approach a transaction as you're currently run. So where a business operating system becomes so important.
Yeah. So what's the secret? Like, what's the difference? Sorry, I'm throwing the questions back at you now.
No,
so what's the secret, man? Like, if I wanted to be in the top 5% of businesses that are actually going to have a successful exit where I get the valuation that I want and my numbers are good for me to exit, retire, transition, whatever it is, like, what is the secret?
Well, all right. I like the role reversal here. Yeah. We were having a conversation in the green room before we got on. So, the difference is there are really two, let's go with the 2 dominant ways of exiting your business. One is the third market sale. There's IPO. Let's just put that hen's teeth. There's third-party sale, right? Selling it to someone else, private equity or whoever. And there's an internal transfer. Now, the reason the growth drive uses the third-party sale as our standard, right? We're like, aim for that. And if you miss, you can still do a fantastic internal transfer, is because it's going to be your highest value. We also understand how the private capital markets will view your business. And it's a lens that I call, and I talk about this a lot. It's in the middle of my book. This suddenly became about me. Anyhow, strategic capacity, right? If you want to take a business and prepare it to sell, you need to maximize strategic capacity, which I would shorthand as business quality, or how much confidence would the private capital markets have in this business's ability to predictably generate revenue and growth going into the future. Profitable, sustainable growth. And if they're highly confident, you're going to get a top multiple and you're going to maximize the wealth you're able to extract from the business. I'll stop in a moment. An internal transfer, the value is more often not dictated by DCF, by discounted cash flow. But frankly, how much cash can the business generate in order to pay the seller? And okay, that's cool. That's most transfers, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. But for both of those, and this brings us to 90, for both of those, that we need to do, there's a lot of doing. There's a lot of prep work, because no matter if you want to sell to a third party, if you're the seller and you put on your seller's hat, you want to make sure your business has two things: predictable profits and cash flow. That's the first dimension of our methodology, and predictable, sustainable growth. You got to at least be keeping pace with inflation, right? So anyhow, that you asked a simple question and I went on a tirade. Thank you.
No, I'm a student learning from you today too, George. So thank you for the knowledge drop. No, so I think everything that I've heard you say, it sounds like a lot of work, right? Like the work to actually do the preparation to get your business ready for exit, so you can get the multiples you need to feel good in the transfer that ultimately helps you succeed.
Yeah.
And you got to remember, most of these guys and gals that build these businesses, this is largely likely the largest asset they will have ever built.
That's
They
right.
spent their whole life. It's like a third or fourth kid, right? So you want to make sure you're getting everything out of it. And it's a lot of work to do that. This is, you know, this better than most, George. This is where great advisors come in. Exit planning advisors like yourself, value growth advisors. Like this is where people come in to help you work through a system to reliably and predictably get to the results you want as an owner looking to exit.
Masterfully done, because you just brought us back to the conversation we were having before I hit record. So, Brandon, that's a fantastic point. And when we think about exit planners, I call it equity value planning. I think exit planning is short-sighted for a lot of reasons we won't go into right now. Let's talk about simply planning the future equity value of your business. Now, when we think about exit planners, and there are rough numbers, if we take all three of the credentialing organizations and jam them together, we're somewhere in the 8 to 10,000. By the way, of 2.1 million advisors out there, that is, I don't even know how many basis points. I can't do the math. It's lost in the rounding, right?
Sure.
So we have 10,000, which sounds like 8 to 10, which sounds like a lot, but is not nearly enough. Now, most of them, slow down and listen, ladies and gentlemen out there, are wealth advisors. And Brandon's going to start nodding his head. Now, this is why it's so exciting that we're working together, because successfully exiting your business, successfully monetizing the value of your life's work depends on what we call strategic doing, right? You have to, it's not okay enough for the business owner to buy a map. They have to go on the journey. And the person who is most likely statistically today to have the exit conversation with a business owner is a wealth advisor. So why am I so excited? We work with business owners. We have a lot of them are growth drive in the growth drive community, right? They subscribe to our software, they come to our events, etc. 90 is a doing platform, right? You said it in the intro. And because it's a doing platform, when should we introduce, watch for my blog post on Thursday, when should we introduce the concept of doing? I would posit, I don't know, Brandon, when do you think? Like the first conversation?
Like, I think if you're starting to think about, you should have that conversation as early as possible. Like, I don't know why it took me so long to just answer that question, right? Like, like that's Yeah, you started as soon as possible, George. Because there's a lot to do. There's a lot to unpack. It's a complex, messy journey, especially like think about most in my conversations. And I'll preface this by saying to everyone listening, look, I'm not an advisor. It's disingenuous for me to I don't want you to think that I am, but here's my kind of unique perspective in the market, George, is I talk to an average of 15 business coaches and or advisors a week. So I don't even know how many that is times 52 weeks, but it's a lot. So I talk to lots of different coaches and I see lots of advisors and lots of different perspectives. And from an advisor standpoint, like if you're a wealth advisor or you are an exit planner and you're talking to an owner, like one of the first things when you're going through the valuation piece, there's a lot of emotionality there because you could have spent 30, 40 years building this construction business that was worth 20 million. And in your mind, because you're operating from your gut and your feeling, you think it's worth, I don't know, I'm making this number up, but you think it's worth like 50 or something, right? But then we actually do a process and you think about the actual realities of the market and how the economy is functioning. That $20 million business, if you think it's 50, is not. And then you have an emotional struggle. Like, okay, well, how do I get it closer to that delta? Like, what do you think it's really worth, George? Then like, how do I close that delta? And it's typically you work with an advisor through a process, right? Like, yeah, so you should start that conversation early because it's 10 times harder than you think. It takes 10 times as long as you think. There's a lot of work to be done. So have it early.
Well, that's exactly right. It is a minimum of a 3. If you want to do it right, it's a minimum of a 3-year gig. And so when we started working together, I'll shift gears into our work together. So I've been working with you and with a bunch of fantastic, haven't met a bad person yet, a fantastic team at 90. And as we were embedding the growth drive methodology, process, our take on a business operating system into 90, one of the first things that was integrated is our strategy planner. And the strategy planner is designed to lead a conversation like, okay, unlike other systems, we're not asking, what do you want your profits to be? What do you want your gross revenues to be? We're asking, we actually start earlier. We're like, what does this business need to do for you and for your family and for your stakeholders and for your legacy? What does this business ultimately need to deliver? That's where we're going to start planning strategy. Now, once we figure out what this business needs to do for you, and let's keep it really simple, and say, I need to net $20 million at the deal table. Now we have, and I won't even get into the concept of strategic intent, but we have a goal, right? We've defined success. Goal. Now we need to look at the business. Okay, how can the business deliver that? By embedding that conversation in 90, we're embedding that conversation. Think about the emotions, ladies and gentlemen, of a wealth advisor saying, hey man, this largest, you own your own business and you've told me you think it's worth 30 million. Why don't we put some diligence into that? That's what growth drive is so damn strong, right? Because we're going to put some diligence into what the number could be, right? What would your value be at your top multiple? And what is it likely to be? How much of that is transferable, right? And then you have a value gap, contributes to your wealth gap. And I'll get to my point. But Brandon, by embedding the strategy planner in 90, we are saying to exit planning wealth advisors who have no interest in being a business advisor whatsoever, we're saying, listen, ladies and gentlemen, your client is going to need to do. And so you might as well introduce the concept of doing in the very first consultation during discovery. Because by bringing 90 into the conversation, then you are actually creating a record that can then be built on by the other people with whom you will necessarily need to collaborate. And that collaboration is external. It's the advisory team, but it's also internal, which is where 90 absolutely shines. Okay, I'll stop.
Well, no, and I guess George, let me kind of spend, because probably some listeners are like, okay, I still don't understand like what the hell 90 is. Let's talk about it for 2 minutes because I promise it will paint a picture. So let me break it down at its most basic level. For an advisor, think about 90 as the technology tool set you use to deliver your services.
Yes.
It's one part strategy, but it's largely how do you bridge strategy and execution to help your clients get to the outcome. And along the way, I don't care if you are an executive coach, I don't care if you are a growth drive advisor, your clients are always asking themselves kind of 3 things along the way. One, am I actually learning in this system and changing my behavior? Because they're going to pay you a lot of money, right? To embrace this system that's going to get them what they want. And they really want to know if they're learning it and understanding it. 2, they want you to hold them accountable to working the work of the system. That's probably a very close second that they want. You are in a position where it's hard to read the label when you're in the bottle, but as their advisor, you can see things from an outside perspective, tell them the hard things no one else will tell them, and be the guide they need to get to where they want to be. And the third thing they want to know is this system working for me? Am I getting the results? Are we changing our behavior? Are we getting the structure right in the company so it's de-risked from me? And 90 provides, for you as an advisor, it gives you all of the tools to achieve those 3 things. And along the way, your clients, the owners, are going to be changing their behavior. They're going to be getting their structure right. They're going to formulate their plan, make sure everyone's connected and rowing in the same direction. It's a beautiful thing. So in a nutshell, without seeing a demo, that's the best way I can describe it. 90 is the tool for you to deliver your services that's going to help your clients bridge strategy to execution to get to the outcomes. Rely.
I thoroughly agree. And which is why I'm telling wealth advisors, you may not be thinking about strategic doing, but you might want to introduce it at the beginning. We can help you do that. It's interesting. God, you just made a bunch of points. I'd love to. Can we take 2 hours, please? And so, Brandon, by the way, you and I, when we haven't had these conversations, we end up geeking out on these issues, and a 5-minute conversation becomes an hour. So it's really important because the implication, what's implied here, is that we have a qualified business owner or CEO who is willing to be transparent with their team, right? And 90 promotes absolute transparency. It promotes what we call collaborative accountability. Everybody's looking in. And if I, as the salesperson, am having a problem, maybe I need to collaborate with marketing, maybe I need to collaborate with ops, what have you. All of that is in a single, this becomes a single point of truth. It's almost like My Health, right? I go to myhealth.com, I get my lab results, I can see everything, I chat with my doctors. This becomes an actionable My Health for a business. And that transparency, instant availability of information is incredibly powerful. And once clients, when a client gets it, Brandon, in your experience, can you talk about that when the coin drops?
Well, I guess let me ask you, what do you mean? Like, do you mean when a client gets it, like when they start to realize the value, like
yes.
what they're...
Yeah. And how, and if you're able to comment, how long does that typically take? This week's episode is brought to you by Be Ready Advisors. Enhance your business advisory services with specialized exit solutions. Listen, these guys will team up with you, increase your bench depth when you need specialized exit planning solutions for your clients. It's led by industry veterans Anna Halliburta, John Carter, and Kelly Malagilla Carter, sponsors of the 2024 Growth Drive Summit. Be Ready Advisors. Check them out at bereadyadvisors.com. This week's episode is brought to you by Growth Drive and the C3D certification. If you're looking to expand your reach and relevance with business owning clients, whether you're a business advisor or wealth advisor, this is a certification for you. And after completing it, you will understand how to make profits and transferable value M&A price actionable, how to maximize results for your clients. So get the details at growthdrive.com/C3D, scan the QR code, register. Listen, this is the path to building a thriving advisory business based on delivering client wins.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great question. Listen, I think when it generally is going to take you 6 months, like
I think that's
you are about to take them oftentimes on through a disciplined journey, a disciplined system where you're going to ask them to change a lot of behavior. You're going to ask them to be open, honest, vulnerable, transparent. This system through Growth Drive is going to they're going to start to hold people accountable to things, right? Like that's hard. That's really hard work that they need you to help them do. So I think at a minimum, it's going to take you 6 months. I would say on average, 6 to 9 months is probably the time it takes to get the epiphany. And when you're trying to change the operational nature and collect all the operational data of the business, yeah, you just need time. It's going to take you time, 6 to 9 months.
I think that's a fair answer. I think that's an accurate, not just fair. I think that's an accurate answer. because we're talking about redesigning a business. We're redesigning its culture. We're redesigning its sense of self, its accountabilities. We're starting to typically stop accepting excuses, but in a positive way, right? Then that's what transparency, those of you who are business owners listening to this, that transparency that you might be hesitant to enact is actually your most powerful tool. If you want to see how successful transparency is, so you just go and look at any public company, anyone. There's nothing you can't figure out about them, right? It's all in their public filings. So if you don't think it works, take a deep breath and do some pondering. Yeah, I'm super excited about the work we're doing together. And we have a webinar coming up on the 22nd of November. We're about to start banging the drum on that. The marketing's teed up and going out the door. That's, we sort of let the world know how effective our methodology and process, which is one of many, to your point. And there are other really good ones out there, none as good as ours. That embedding it in 90 really takes embedding it in a platform that promotes transparency is going to be terrifically valuable for advisors, and 10 times that for their clients.
Yeah. And I would say too, George, that outside of the software, so I'm in a division called partnerships. And like when we call it partnerships, we really mean that. So whenever we work with strategic partners like Growth Drive, the vision for 90 is how do we build inside of our 15,000 clients, right? Like we're starting to get some directional data. I can't tell you the ins and outs because frankly, George, it would be dishonest of me to tell you how it's working because I just don't know. But I can tell you the vision is how do we create a marketplace to better serve our clients with their needs? Because we want to transcend software. We actually want to be a part of helping them build their business. So somehow, some magical way, we're going to start to better understand in our growing client base, like a digital hand raise of saying, hey, I want to exit. Like, how do I need help figuring this stuff out. And we want to have partners in our partner ecosystem, like your advisors to say, hey, you're in Oklahoma, you're looking for an advisor. I know we have a great relationship with Growth Drive. Let us bridge an introduction. So there's going to be a generous lead program that we're going to put out there because we want to help you be successful and grow your business. We'll have co-marketing. We'll have partner webinars. We want to help you with business development through things like building trusted partner networks, through helping you do better referral. We call it a referral process. Like how do you do generate referrals, leads through referrals in your own network? So like we want to participate with our partners in our ecosystem like you to help you be successful, because we believe, and we've seen this just in our experience and in our data, that when we help our partners find success with their clients, both in delivery and in net new acquisition of clients, our partners refer us into their client environment. So it's a win-win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited to see what evolves. Tom, I can tell you that it was a dark day, but probably the best day was the day I got the phone call that would, hey man, we're turning the software off. No one was more surprised than me. And maybe it was the same for Mark and you and the team when you got the phone call from EOS. You know what? They came back, by the way, because their advisors went up in arms. Is my understanding.
Well, I think I can't speak for Mark and the leadership team. I mean, there's stuff that happens at the top that I don't know what's going on. But I can tell you, I take pride in saying I'm in the field, right? Because I'm in the field every single day, 15 to 20 different partner calls a week. I think the thing that was hard for us during the EOS situation was we were worried we weren't going to be able to help them be as successful with their clients as they could be with our software. Mm-hmm. If you look at our client base, there's an exorbitant amount of our clients that run on our EOS configuration. And we get, if you look at most of our reviews, it's from entrepreneurs running EOS on 90 that are saying, hey, thank you. This really helped accelerate my understanding of this business operating system and get the results from it, along with my implementer. But the software was a big piece. And our support has always been world-class. It would be for your clients as well. Like if you ask anyone,
like no question. What makes 90? You guys? Yeah, I didn't work this hard to build this community yeah. Absolutely.
It's like if you were to interview the market and ask like what makes you different than all the other competitors out there, it's our service, man. Like We have a world-class client support team. We have very aggressive SLAs to take care of the entrepreneurs that pay money to use our software to help them run their system. So I'm very proud of that work.
It's interesting. And EOS is a great system. I think the Vision Traction, Gino, he was a great guy, has done one thing. I mean, his biggest stroke of genius from this guy's perspective is the Vision Traction Organizer. And all of I won't even, but EOS, and now let me throw a stone at them. The challenge with EOS is that it's inward looking. And so implementers say, okay, ladies and gentlemen, of the senior leadership team, let's sit down and talk about what we see and how we view and where we are seeing, et cetera. And that is powerful because these are smart men and women who are successful but frustrated, right? Or successful but excited about the next big thing. But they're talking internally, and the implementer is precluded from giving advice. We have a very, very different perspective, similar but different. Are they both operating systems? Sure. Is EOS outstanding and proven? Sure. We bring a different perspective. I say, you know what got you here might not get you there. You don't know what you don't know. All of those phrases. Let's bring in a business advisor. Our typical advisor has 30 plus years of professional experience, an average of 3.7 credentials. These are serious advisors. They give advice. They will listen, they will facilitate, but they're going to give advice. And they say, hey, what are best in class businesses doing that you might be doing or could be doing to break through these bottlenecks? Because managing a business, you ran one, right? You're just managing from bottleneck to bottleneck to bottleneck, because you fix something and you're going to break something else, or stress it, or work it to capacity. What are your best in class competitors doing? And that's the key difference, and why we're gaining momentum. And I've got my report. It's Monday. Got my report on my desk. We eat our own dog food, and we are growing so nicely because it's this outside. What would the private capital markets do? And I'll just wrap it up by saying, if you want to run a private equity play, you want to help your client run a private equity play on their own business, the private capital markets perspective is the one to look to. Infomercial with my own show.
No, it's George. I think everything you said spot on. The last thing I would comment on, whether it's EOS or whether it's Growth Drive, I think one of the earliest and most important pain points that either system will help clients solve is, we always say that every company has an operating system. Even if you don't know what it is, you have one. Most of the time, if it's unrecognized, it's because the owner founder is the operating system. And that's a very dangerous place to be in, whether it's EOS or whether it's the work you're going to do with your Growth Drive operating system. You have to help solve that pain first, because often that executive bottleneck, it limits so many factors of your business. And I think that's where, through the work that your community is doing, that's one of the first pain points you'll help people solve, is you got to transition this from you being the operating system, because you can't sell you. Like, you are not the exit strategy, right? Like, you got to get all the other levers in your business, all the other core competencies firing in the right direction.
Yeah, Brandon, you're spot on, because what is the biggest reason that businesses can't sell? It's called owner dependence, right? The owner is the business. And here's where starting the conversation in the right place is so important. Because if you are the business, we need to help you understand that the business actually needs to become immortal. Right now, if you die, the business is going to suffer, right? At least go through a really fractious period. How do you create an immortal business where even when you decide to ride off into the sunset, and this is hard for business owners to understand. Yeah, you have fast cars and big houses and take fabulous vacations, and who wouldn't want to be you? Well, it doesn't mean your business is valuable, right? If you can't create a business that is going to go on to greater glory after you leave than it is with you in it today, then your business is not sellable. And if you want to understand, as a business advisor, a business owner, the power of 90, imagine if, rather than exiting the business, we're planning the future equity value, but you're saying, I just want to exit the accountabilities chart I want to go from being the operator to being the CEO, shareholder value, to being the chairman, right? And to show up quarterly, keep getting my compensation, et cetera, then using 90 to create transparency, and to help your team maximize collaborative accountability. And the thing that I love about your platform and your philosophy and your commitment to successful outcomes, which is the glue between our businesses, is that you push this from the boardroom to literally to the shop floor, right? And I mean, what isn't exciting about that? What isn't excited about that?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're a Series B company at this point. Whenever we do our investor board meetings, because we have accountability to go to them and tell them how we did on our predictions. We don't build fancy PowerPoint decks. We take them into the software, baby.
Yeah.
The proof is in the pudding. Like we have, hey, here's what we told you we think we would do, and here's how the actuals and how we shook out. Here's what we learned. What are the key topics that we need to talk about, to help accelerate the company to find success? And we truly eat our own dog food. Everything we do is in the software. To your point, George, from the boardroom down to like people in the field like me, we're all aligned in one little tool called 90.
Yeah, it's super cool. I'm as you can tell, I'm very, very excited about all the things you're doing. So you said your vision is 10 million. I should know this off the top of my head. 10 million businesses or 10 million business people?
That's a great question. Yeah. So our compelling, audacious goal by 2030 is we want 10 million people meaningfully impacted by our software. So here's what that can mean. That can mean we have 1 million companies and each company has 10 users, right? So we're impacting the total company, like all of the people inside of the company are benefiting from the company running on our software.
Yeah, I love that.
So fun fact, I think as we crunch the math at our all company meeting, we're at approximately 2 or 2.5 million. We're still trying to we're using some tools to calculate the math.
Sure.
So we are, we'll call it 5 years away at this point, and we're about a quarter way there. So hopefully as we scale, that will get us to our number, but it'll be close.
Well, we're working on it. We'll do our level best to help you. It's funny because our vision is to help $1 trillion of private businesses increase their strategic capacity in the 3 dimensions of business growth. And those, our similar, and I'm trying to do rough math in my head, and let's not, you'll see blood coming out of my ear. But, we have a similar vision for the market. And the bottom line is when I find your description, your vision terribly exciting, because we're talking about delivering stable, well-paying jobs in resilient businesses that can withstand pandemics and downturns in the economy, where they have, that is terrifically important. We have a similar, how do we contribute? How do we contribute to the communities in which we live? And it's fun, isn't it?
It is. I've never been part of a company where I've really believed in the vision or the mission. But we've all, if you're listening to this, I'm sure we've all been a part of companies where we weren't treated very equitable. It was a difficult place to be. We have a family to take care of. But at 90, when we think about the way I think about it, it's just a Brandon Snyder personally. I used to work at a company here in Columbus, Ohio, about 250 people. Not a great culture. Leadership was not transparent. You never knew what was going on. You didn't feel like you mattered. And all that baggage you feel at work, you often take that kind of stuff home, right?
Amen.
But we believe, if you just look at our data and you see companies that are running on a business operating system, they typically have great transparent organizations. The culture and the people inside of the company are healthy. And we all know that small businesses are the backbone of the economy. So the idea is if we can multiply the effect of a great leadership team, building a great company with happy, healthy employees, they take those economics and all that good juju back into their local communities. Everyone prospers. Everyone's lifted up. And I know that sounds maybe a little bit too vision casty, but I truly believe that that's the work that we're doing. And I'm just thrilled to be part of the journey.
It doesn't sound too, and Brandon, you see me nodding my head up. No, that's not too, that is terrifically important. the first two growth driving objectives in our methodology are effective senior leadership and people productive and loyal. And those, if you can nail those two things, you've gone a long way as a business leader, a long, long way as a business advisor to creating to starting to get the culture right. And if you get culture right, we all know, right? You're going to eat strategy for breakfast, et cetera. But you get the culture right, Lord, I mean, look out. All right. So I can't believe we've already been chatting for 37 minutes and 48 seconds. Hey, let's talk about two things. One, so we have a lot of people in our community, and we're going to be bringing them into 90 in cohorts. I'd like to talk about that for a couple of minutes. So cohorts, for those of you out there, if you know what the word means, we're going to take groups of advisors and we're going to connect them with the 90.io team, and we're going to implement them in groups. And we do that for a bunch of different reasons. Anyone who's worked inside Growth Drive know that we do things as classes, as we name these cohorts, and it becomes a working group. Think of it as a study group as you implement this and as you take it into your clients. Comments on that?
Yeah, I think the major rationale for the strategy of cohorts is, if you look at software adoption, I think 90 is an incredibly intuitive platform, but it is something new for a lot of you.
It's intuitive for you.
Yeah, but the best way for anyone to learn, like 75 to 90% of how people learn, particularly in software, is you got to put hands to keyboard. You got to get in there and start messing with it.
We do, yeah.
So the concept of putting you in these cohorts is to help you put hands to keyboard and help you be competent enough to be confident enough to use this with your clients. Because if your clients feel like you get it and you believe it, they will also adopt it and believe it. So that's probably the main rationale. It's going to be super easy. George, I wasn't with, so there's another character involved in the story that you guys probably don't know. Her name's Teresa Voss. She's our solution architect. I don't know if you and Teresa have talked about like the concept of accountability groups in these cohorts.
Oh, yeah.
But I often find, have you?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So the concept of, if you are an advisor or a coach, it's often a lonely business. And you often forget, in most cases, that you are running a business. Even if it's just you, your practice is a business. So the great part of being part of communities like Growth Drive and having cohorts is that they're accountability groups that hold you accountable to doing the hard work of building what we call an ambitious coaching practice. In this case, it would be an advisor. It doesn't matter. So that's also the value. And our software is a place where you can all communicate, collaborate, hold each other accountable to doing the work you said you would do.
Yeah, that's in the rollout plan. I thoroughly agree with you. To whom can you? That's our entire support. Our support philosophy is peer-to-peer support. That's why we have an online community. It's a forum. If you got questions, you can call us. But why don't you ask someone who's out there, doing what you're doing all day, every day? A quick comment. You're absolutely right. It is not a practice. We're not practicing. We're building an advisory business. And you'll see that I essentially never use the word practice. We always hammer on, that's my good friend Barry Goodman is like, it's not a practice. It's an advisory business. Heck yes. So cohorts, guys, and we're going to do them periodically, hopefully very often. We have the first cohort coming together now. And after the webinar, we're going to stand up the first cohort. Webinars on the 20th November, and I believe you are going to be the star player in that webinar.
I will be there. I'll be leading the efforts and getting the whole initiative kicked off.
Awesome, man. I'm excited about it. There's a lot of fun to be had, right? We have to do this anyhow. We might as well have fun doing it. And
yeah,
it's such a pleasure to work with you, with Teresa, with the whole team. Listen, man, anything you want to share in closing?
No, I think this probably sounds self-serving coming from a software guy, but technology is a big part of how advisors are going to deliver their services and how clients are going to experience those services. Your clients are hard enough to find and win. You got to make sure when you do, you're giving them a world-class experience that is hard to replicate outside of you. And that's what ultimately a big part of the value I want to bring to you is, how do I make the experience you give your clients unforgettable so they never leave? Right? Not until that exit point.
Exactly. Well, and how do we, one would hope though, that even after, let's get back to immortal business, even after the owner exits, they're still going to continue operating with 90, right? I mean, that is part
Oh,
of
that's the dream.
the business doesn't end. The founder's role may end, but that business continues to contribute. And yeah, I'll just leave it there. I have a feeling you and I are going to be having another one of these down the road, another one of these conversations. So super excited. Brandon, thank you to you and the whole team. Another fun conversation. And I will look forward to talking to you. I'm sure we'll talk between now and then, but on the 22nd of November, 2024, to hosting this webinar. So thanks.
Love it, George. Thanks for having me, man. We'll see you then.
Yes, you will. Be well.
Bye-bye.
Hi, this is George. Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, you can subscribe, like, and please take 2 seconds to leave a review. It tells the world that you like what we're doing, and it helps us understand how we can improve the show. Thank you, and see you next time.